So we come to chapter 60. And just to remind you, Ralph Nickleby has been told that his schemes to disgrace and ruin Nicholas have failed, and his fraud, together with Snawley and Squeers, has been discovered, but he hasn't given up yet. He thinks that he has one more chance to get the iron out of the fire. He knows that Squeers has been remanded in custody, but if he can silence him, or better still, persuade him to make up a false account of what has taken place, all may not yet be lost. Instead of going home, Ralph threw himself into the first street cabriolet he could find, and directing the driver towards the police office of the district in which Mr. Squeers' misfortunes had occurred, alighted at a short distance from it, and discharging the man, went the rest of his way thither on foot. Inquiring for the object of his solicitude, he learnt that he had timed his visit very well, for Mr. Squeers was in fact at that very moment waiting for a hackney coach he had ordered, and in which he proposed proceeding to his week's retirement to be spent in custody, like a gentleman. Demanding speech with the prisoner, Ralph was ushered into a kind of waiting room in which, by reason of his scholastic profession and superior respectability, Mr. Squeers had been permitted to pass the day. Here, by the light of a guttering and blackened candle, he could scarcely discern the schoolmaster fast asleep on a bench in a remote corner. An empty glass stood on a table before him, which, with his somnolent condition and a very strong smell of brandy and water, forewarned the visitor that Mr. Squeers had been seeking in creature comforts a temporary forgetfulness of his most unpleasant situation. It was not a very easy matter to rouse him, so lethargic and heavy were his slumbers. Regaining his facilities by slow and faint glimmerings, he at length sat upright and declared a very yellow face, a very red nose, and a very bristly beard, the joint effect of which was considerably heightened by a dirty white handkerchief, spotted with blood, drawn over the crown of his head and tied under his chin. He stared ruefully at Ralph in silence, until his feelings found a vent in this pithy sentence. "I say, young fella, ye have been and done it now, haven't you?" "What's the matter with your head?" asked Ralph. "Why, your man you're informing, kidnapping man, has broke it," rejoined Squeers sulkily. "That's what's the matter. Oh, so you've come at last, have you?" "Why did you not send for me?" said Ralph. "How could I come, until I knew what had befallen you?" "My family," hiccuped Mr. Squeers, raising his eye to the ceiling. "My daughter is at that age when all the sensibilities is a-coming out in strong blows. My son as is the young novel of private life, and the pride and ornament of a doting village. There's a shock for my family. The coat of arms of the Squeerses is torn down. Their son has descended into the ocean wave. You've been drinking, said Ralph, and you haven't slept yourself sober. I haven't been drinking your health, my codger, replied Squeers. So you've nothing to do with that. Ralph suppressed the indignation which the schoolmaster's altered and insolent manner awakened, and asked again why he had not sent for him. What should I get by sending for you? returned Squeers. To be known to be in with you wouldn't do me a deal of good. They wouldn't take bail till they knew something more about the case. So here I am hard and fast, and there you are loose and comfortable. And so must you be in a few days, retorted Ralph with affected good humour. It can't hurt you, man. Why, I suppose they can't do much to me if I explain how it was I got into the good company of that cadaverous old slider, replied Squeers, who I wish was dead and buried and resurrected and dissected and hung upon wires in an anatomical museum before I'd ever had anything to do with her. This is what him and the powdered head said to me this morning in so many words. Prisoner, as you have been found in company with this woman, as you were detected in possession of this document, as you were engaged in fraudulently destroying other documents, and can give no satisfactory account of yourself, I shall remand you for a week in custody, in order that inquiries may be made and evidence got. And meanwhile I can't take any bail for your appearance. What then I now say is that I can give a satisfactory account of myself. I can, in the card of my establishment, say, I am Wackford Squeers, as is therein named. I am the man, as is guaranteed by unimpeachable references, to be a out and outer in morals and uprightness of principle. Whatever is wrong in this business is no fault of mine. I had no evil design in it. I was not aware that anything was wrong. I was merely employed by a friend, my friend, Mr. Ralph Nickleby of Golden Square. Send for him, sir, and ask him what he's got to say. He's the man, not me. What was the document that you had? asked Ralph, evading for the moment the point just raised. What document? Why, the document, replied Squeers. The Madeline what's her name one. It was a will. That's what it was, a will. Of what nature? Whose will? When dated? How benefiting her? To what extent? asked Ralph hurriedly. It was a will in her favour, that's all I know, rejoined Squeers, and that's more than you'd have known if you'd had the bellows on your head like me. It's all owing to your precious caution that they've got hold of it. If you'd let me burn it and taken my word that it was gone, it would be a heap of ashes behind the fire, instead of being whole and sound inside my greatcoat. Beaten at every turn, muttered Ralph. "Aye," sighed Squeers, who, between the brandy and water and his broken head, wandered strangely. "At the delightful village of Dotheboys, near Greta Bridge in Yorkshire, youth are boarded, clothed, booked, washed, furnished with pocket money, provided with all necessaries, instructed in all languages living and dead, mathematics, orthography, geometry, astronomy, trigonometry. This is an altered state of trigonomics. This is a double, all, everything, a cobbler's weapon. Up, adjectives, not down. Squabble, squeers, noun, substantive, educator of youth, total, all up with Squeers. His running on in this way had afforded Ralph an opportunity of recovering his presence of mind, which at once suggested to him the necessity of removing as far as possible the schoolmaster's misgivings and leading him to believe that his safety and the best policy led in the preservation of a rigid silence. "I tell you once again," he said, "they can't hurt you. You shall have an action for false imprisonment and make a profit out of this yet. We will devise a story for you that will carry through you 20 times this trivial scrape. And if you want security in £1,000 for your reappearance in case you should be called upon, you shall have it. All you have to do is to keep back the truth. You're a little fuddled tonight and may not be able to see this as clearly as you would at other times, but this is what you must do. You'll need to keep all your senses about you, for a slip would be awkward." "Oh," said Squeers, who looked cunningly at him, with his head stuck on one side like an old raven. "That's what I'm to do, is it? Oh, now then, you just hear a word or two from me. I ain't going to have any stories made up for me, and I ain't going to stick to any. If I find matters going my way, I shall expect you to take your share, and I'll care that you do. You never said anything about danger. I never bargained for being brought into such a plight as this, and I don't mean to take it as quiet as you think. I let you lead me on from one thing to another, because we'd been mixed up together in a certain sort of way, and if you'd like to be ill-natured, you might have hurt the business, and if you'd like to have been good-natured, you might throw a good deal in my way. Well, if it all goes right now, that's quite correct, and I don't mind it. But if anything goes wrong, then times are altered, and I shall just say and do whatever may serve me most, and take advice from nobody. My moral influence with them lads," added Mr. Squeers with deep gravity, "is a tottering to its basis. The images of Mr. Squeers, Mrs. Squeers, my daughter, and my son, Wackford, all short of victuals, is perpetually before me. Every other consideration melts away and vanishes in front of these, and only numbering the only number in all arithmetic I know of, as a husband and a father, is number 1 under this most fatal goal." How long Mr. Squeers might have declaimed, or how stormy a discussion his declamation might have led to, nobody knows, being interrupted at this point by the arrival of the coach and the officer who was to bear him company to his custody. He perched his hat with great dignity on top of the handkerchief that bound his head, and thrusting one hand into a pocket and the other into the attendant's arm, suffered himself to be led forth. "As I supposed from his not sending," thought Ralph. "This fellow, I plainly see through all this tipsy fooling, has made up his mind to turn upon me. I am so beset and hemmed in that they are not only all struck with fear, but like the beasts in the fable have their fling to me now, though time was, and no longer ago than yesterday too, when they were all civility and compliance. But they shall not move me. I will not give way. I will not budge 1 inch." He went home, and was glad to find his housekeeper complaining of illness, that he might have an excuse for being alone and sending her away to where she lived, which was hard by. Then he sat down by the light of a single candle and began to think, for the first time, on all that had taken place that day. He had neither eaten nor drunk since last night, and in addition to the anxiety of mind he had undergone, had been travelling about from place to place most incessantly for many hours. He felt sick and exhausted, but could taste nothing save a glass of water, and continued to sit with his head upon his hand, not resting, not thinking, but laboriously trying to do both, and feeling that every sense but one of weariness and desolation was for the time benumbed. It was nearly 10 o'clock when he heard a knocking at the door, and sat quite still as before, as if he couldn't even bring his thoughts to bear upon it. It had been often repeated, and he had several times heard a voice outside saying that there was a light in the window, meaning he knew his own candle, before he could rouse himself and go downstairs. "Mr. Nickleby, there is terrible news for you, and I am sent to beg you come with me directly," said a voice he seemed to recognize. He held his hand above his eyes, and looking out, he saw Tim Linkinwater on the steps. "Come where?" demanded Ralph. "To our house, where you came this morning. I have a coach here." "Why should I come there?" said Ralph. "Don't ask me why, but pray come with me." "For another edition of today?" returned Ralph, making as though he would shut the door. "No, no, no!" cried Tim, catching him by the arm and speaking most earnestly. "It is only that you may hear something that has occurred, something very dreadful, Mr. Nickleby, which concerns you directly. Do you think I would tell you so, or come to you like this, if it were not the case?" Ralph looked at him more closely, seeing that he was indeed greatly excited. He faltered and could not tell what to say or think. "You had better hear this now than at any other time," said Tim. "It may have some influence with you. For heaven's sake, come!" Perhaps at some other time Ralph's obstinacy and dislike would have been proof against any such appeal in any quarter, however emphatically urged. But now, after a moment's hesitation, he went into the hall, received his hat, and returning, got into the coach without speaking a word. Tim well remembered afterwards, and often said, that as Ralph Nickleby went into the house for this purpose, he saw him by the light of the candle which he had set down upon the chair reel and stagger like a drunken man. He well remembered, too, that when he had placed his foot upon the coach steps, he turned round and looked at Tim with a face so ashy pale and so very wild and vacant that it made him shudder and for the moment almost afraid to follow. People were fond of saying that he had some dark presentiment upon him, but his emotions might perhaps with greater show of reason be referred to what he had undergone that day. A profound silence was observed during the ride. Arrived at their place of destination, Ralph followed his conductor into the house and into a room where the two brothers were. He was so astounded, not to say awed, by something of a mute compassion for himself, which was visible in their manner and in that of the old clerk, though he could scarcely speak. Having taken a seat, however, he contrived to say, though in broken words, What have you to say to me, more than what has already been said? The room was old and large, but imperfectly lighted, and terminated in a bay window, about which hung some heavy drapery. Casting his eyes in this direction as he spoke, he thought he made out the dusty figure of a man. He was confirmed in this impression by seeing that the object moved as if uneasy under his scrutiny. "Who's that yonder?" he said. "One who has conveyed to us within these 2 hours the intelligence which caused our sending to you," replied Brother Charles. "Let him be, sir. Let him be for the present." "More riddles?" said Ralph faintly. "Well, sir." In turning his face towards the brothers, he was obliged to avert it from the window, but before either of them could speak, he looked round again. It was evident that he was rendered restless and uncomfortable by the presence of the unseen person, for he repeated this action several times, and at length, as if in a nervous state which rendered him positively unable to turn away from the place, sat as he would have it opposite him, muttering as an excuse that he couldn't bear the light. The brothers conferred apart for a short time, their manner showing that they were very agitated. Ralph glanced at them twice or thrice, and ultimately said, with a great effort to recover his self-possession, "Now, what is this? If I am brought from home at this time of night, let it be for something. What have you got to tell me?" After a short pause, he added, "Is my niece dead?" He had struck upon a key which rendered the task of commencement an easy one. Brother Charles turned and said it was a death, of which they had to tell him, but that was not the one. His niece was well. You don't mean to tell me, do you?" said Ralph, his eyes brightening, "that her brother is dead? No, that's too good. I'd not believe you if you told me so. It would be too welcome news to be true if the blackguard was dead." "Shame on you, you hardened and unnatural man!" cried the older brother warmly. "Prepare yourself for intelligence which, if you have any human feeling in your breast, will make even you shrink and tremble. What we have to tell you is that a poor unfortunate boy, a child in everything but never having known one of those tender endearments, or one of those lightsome hours which make our childhood a time to be remembered like a happy dream through all our after life. A warm-hearted, harmless, affectionate creature who never offended you or did you wrong, but upon whom you have vented the malice and hatred you have contrived for your nephew, and whom you have made an instrument for wreaking your bad passions upon him. What we have to tell you, sir, is that sinking under your persecution and the misery and illusive of a life short in years but long in suffering, this poor creature has gone to tell his sad tale, where for your part in it, one day you must surely give an answer. If you tell me, said Ralph, if you tell me that he is dead, I forgive you all else. If you tell me that he is dead, I am in your debt and bound to you for life. He is, I see in your faces. Who triumphs now? Is this your dreadful news, this your terrible intelligence? You see how it moves me. You did very well to send. I would have travelled 100 miles afoot through mud and mire and darkness to hear this news just at this time. Even then, moved as he was by this savage joy, Ralph could see in the faces of the two brothers, mingling with their look of disgust and horror, something of that indefinable compassion for himself which he had noticed before. And he brought you the intelligence, did he? Said Ralph, pointing with his finger towards the recess already mentioned. And sat there, no doubt, to see me prostrated and overwhelmed by it. Ha, 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 ha! But I tell him that I'll be a sharp thorn in, and that you'll rue the day that you took compassion on that vagabond. You take me for your nephew, said a hollow voice. It would be better for you and for me too, if I were he indeed. The figure that he had so dimly seen rose and came slowly down the room. Ralph started back, for he found that he confronted not his nephew Nicholas as he had supposed, but his old criminal confederate, Brooker. Ralph had no reason that he knew to fear this man. He had never feared him before, but the pallor which had been observed in his face when he issued forth that night came upon him again. He began to tremble, and his voice changed as he said, keeping his eye upon him, "What does this fellow here? Do you know that he is a convict, a felon, a common thief? Hear what he has to tell you. Oh, Mr. Nickleby, hear what he has to tell you, be what he may," cried the brothers, with such emphatic earnestness that Ralph turned to them in wonder. They pointed to Brooker. Ralph again gazed at him, as it seemed mechanically. That boy said the man. That boy who these gentlemen have been talking of. That boy? Repeated Ralph, looking vacantly at him. Whom I saw stretched dead and cold upon his bed, and who is now in his grave. Who is now in his grave, echoed Ralph like one who talks in his sleep. The man raised his eyes and clasped his hand together solemnly. That boy was your only son, so God in heaven help. In the midst of a dead silence, Ralph sat down, pressing his two hands upon his temples. He removed them after a minute, and never was there seen part of a living man, undisfigured by any wound, such a ghastly face as he then disclosed. He looked at Brooker, who was by this time standing at a short distance from him, but he did not say one word, or make the slightest sound or gesture. Gentlemen, said the man, I offer no excuses for myself. I am long past that. If in telling you how this has happened, I tell you that I was harshly used and perhaps driven out of my real nature, I do it only as a necessary part of my story, and not to shield myself. I am a guilty man. He stopped as if to recollect, and looking away from Ralph and addressing himself to the brothers, proceeded in a subdued and humble tone. This is my story.